everyone! So in this video, I'm coming at you again with some more queer trans discussion. Today I'm going to be talking about labels for gender and sexuality, how useful they are, just the general philosophy behind labeling yourself, and my overall thoughts on if I like to label myself and what kind of labels I would like to use and in what circumstances I would use those labels. And hopefully this can be helpful for you if you're trying to figure out similar thoughts for yourself. So let's get right into it. I think that my general thesis here is that labels are useful but incomplete. And so the question at hand, I think the central question is, do I use labels for myself to describe my gender and sexuality, and if so, what labels should I use? I think that that's the question that lots of queer and trans people ask themselves, so that's what I'm going to be tackling here. So, right off the bat, there's like a major pro and a major con for labels that I want to address. The first one is something that's been discussed extensively within like queer trans discourse. It's that labels for gender and sexuality are social constructs. Like, it's all fake. Like, men and women are just things that we like came up with it in our brain, and not to mention gay and straight. Like, it's all just a concept. Like, there's no rules. Like, it's all just like part of society. Like, we live in a society, you know? I'm not gonna hammer that point too hard because I feel like anybody that's watching this video has already heard lots of people talk about how gender and sexuality are just social constructs. And there's like actual like queer theory like writing on that I'm not prepared to discuss right now. So I'm going to take it for granted that everybody understands that these are just social constructs. And taking that for granted, like taking that as like an axiom for a moment, that really inspires me to not want to use any labels at all, because it's like, what even is a man? What even is a woman? What does it mean to be straight? What does it mean to be gay? Like, all of these things are just made up. Like, they don't describe me, like, as a person, like, holistically. Like, that's not who I am, is like a gay woman. I'm just me, and my experience is more complex than just those two words. So that, like, makes me not want to use labels. But, on the other hand, the major pro for using labels sometimes is that they are honestly quite practical and useful for like social interactions. For example, if I'm at a party and some boy comes up to me and tries to flirt with me, I can just tell him, sorry, I'm gay, and he immediately knows everything that he needs to know. Like, I'm not interested in men, you're a man, I'm interested in women, please leave me alone, stop flirting with me, I don't want to talk to you, I'm gay, you know? Like, and that doesn't describe like the full like depth and nuance of like my understanding of my attraction to different peoples and different genders, but it serves a very, very real social utility there, and that like clearly demonstrates to me that like these labels are useful in some circumstances, in some ways, even if they don't completely, totally describe who I am and my experiences. So those are the major pros and cons for using labels, I think. Now I'm gonna like analyze this through the lens of gender and sexuality separately, because the way that we apply labels to those things are obviously related because they're related concepts, but they're also very different in some key ways, and I think that understanding those differences will help us understand this entire field of inquiry a lot better. So I'll start with gender. And I'm starting with gender, well, not only because I'm trans and I think about gender a lot, but specifically because as a trans person, like when I first started really considering that I was like not cishet, like I was like queer or trans in some way, the first thing that I started thinking about was how gender is like totally made up. Again, social construct, I'm not going to get into that, but I would just like sit in my room for hours and hours and think about how like there's no rules about like what men or women could do or can't do. Anybody can wear any clothes, anybody can have any hair, anybody can talk anyway, anybody can talk anyway. Yeah, so it's like there's literally no rules, and like why do I even care about like being one gender or the other, right? So I was thinking about that, and then sexuality was just like an afterthought. Like, if men and women don't even exist, then how the fuck am I gonna say that I'm only attracted to men or women that are like put in the categories like that? So sexuality is just an afterthought for me there. But so I think with gender, there's like two main breakdowns of like where the label applies to gender. Like, probably most importantly for most trans people, your gender identity is like the first place that you can assign a label. Like, I used to identify as a boy, and then I realized that that doesn't like actually suit me very well, and now I identify as a girl. I feel like a girl, I am a girl, but like on the inside, that's like how I've like processed my feelings towards my like self-perception and just like who I want to be. Like internally, I've recognized that the label that I would apply to myself in terms of gender is female, woman, girl, all that. But on the other hand, there's perception. And, you know, obviously, as trans people and trans allies, the idea is to like always respect somebody's gender identity and use their pronouns and treat them as the gender that they are and that they say that they are and that they want to be treated as. But there's no getting around the reality that not everybody is trans or trans ally or has thought about gender very hard or like knows like the like politeness to directly like affirm people's gender identities. So for most cis-het people, it comes down to their just natural like default like social perception rules in their brain of like categorizing you into a man or a woman, not to even mention non-binary people, but like that is just the society that we live in, unfortunately, and in that way, people are always going to be putting you into like a gendered box in their head of like, oh, this person is a man or this person is a woman, and they are applying that label to you, and society at large is applying that label to you. And so the idea, like the goal, I think, for most trans people is to get that like the label that society applies to you, that society genders on you, to align with your actual gender, your gender identity that's like internal. But these are two very different places that labels are applied. And critically, one of them is coming like internally, like you are applying the label to yourself, and the other one is coming like externally, like other people are applying this label to you, and society is applying this label to you and treating you a certain way based on that label. And this gets into the concept of non-binary identity, which is something that I'll probably talk more about in the future. And I don't present as non-binary or really claim the term non-binary, but I do have some complex thoughts here, because in some sense, I do consider myself to be non-binary, because like I said, I spent months, hours, just so much time just breaking down the concept of gender in my head and just totally like blowing my own mind, realizing that gender is just fake and I'm just a person. I'm not like a man or a woman. I'm just me. I'm just a person. I'm just a human being. And that could be considered non-binary. If I wanted to like claim non-binary, I suppose I could, because that's literally how I feel. I don't feel like I, in like the truest, deepest sense, am a man or a woman. I'm just me. But I've realized that I want the perception of other people in society, and even my own like reflexive self-perception when I look in the mirror. I want that external perception and that external labeling process to result in me being seen as a woman. I don't want to present as non-binary, and I don't want people to see me, and you know, most cis-het people won't even be able to like get this far, but like queer and trans people and allies that like might be able to do this, like I don't want them to see me and perceive me as a non-binary person, and I don't want to like express myself with like an androgynous like non-binary presentation. I want to express myself as a woman, like based on my own definition of a woman and femininity, mind you, but still I want people and I want myself and I want society to perceive me as a woman and treat me with that social gender role. Even though it's not perfect, that is what I feel more comfortable with than a male role or a non-binary role. Even though I consider myself to be just a person, not necessarily a man or a woman, I want to be seen as a woman. So then it's like, what am I? What label do I use? Do I use a woman? Do I use non-binary? Like, I mean, I basically just use the label that I'm a woman, that I'm a trans woman, but like you can see how this gets complicated and it's not like a clear-cut answer. And so then if we look at the sexuality side of things, first of all, if we've just broken down the fact that like all people are just people and that gender is a social construct, then how are you going to say that you're only attracted to men or women when men and women don't even exist? Like, if a man can be anything and look like anything, and if a woman can be anything and look like anything, if a man can have long hair, like a feminine curvy figure, and dress like, I don't know, dress like this, then, and a woman could, I don't know, look like, you get my point. Like, a woman could look like a archetypical, like, cis man. Like, these are just, like, concepts and they're fake. And, like, it doesn't mean anything to be, like, attracted to men or women because you're not attracted to men or women. You're attracted to people. You're attracted to individual people. Some people you're attracted to more than others. And that's just, that's just how it is. I don't know. And so I just feel like the concept of, like, using labels to, like, apply your sexuality in, like, a really nuanced, detailed way just really breaks down. Like, I can't say that I'm gay because, like, what if there was somebody that I thought was, like, super attractive and they were, like, maybe they were super feminine and just the first time I see them, I assume that they're a woman, but actually they're a man and that's what they tell me, then at that point I would be attracted to a man, but, like, my attraction is still working based off of the same principles as before. And so, yeah, this just totally breaks down. And so, there's like 3 distinct ways that I think that labels could be applied for sexuality. Whereas I analyzed the 2 for gender, I'm going to analyze 3 for sexuality. So the first one is attraction, and that's basically what I've been talking about. So personally, I primarily consider myself like gay, like a lesbian, attracted to women, but I feel attracted to all kinds of different people in all kinds of different ways. And like, it's hard for me to like put it into categories of like romantic or sexual attraction. Like, there's definitely like men, like not like anything more complex than just like a cis-het man that looks like a man, has like a masculine presentation. See, looks like a man, that's fake, but has like a masculine presentation and they're obviously like a cis man. There are men that I've been attracted to sexually, romantically, but just like it feels somehow different than being attracted to a woman, but it's all like on this like big scale and it's so much more nuanced than like, oh yeah, I'm mostly attracted to women and sometimes I'm also attracted to men. Like, I could sit here and describe for hours like the differences between the way that I'm attracted to women and the way that I'm attracted to men and the way that I'm attracted to like individual people with individual masculine and feminine characteristics, and it's just so limiting to like try and fit it into one word based on my attraction. And so then let's analyze it from like another view, my identity. Like, how do I choose to label myself? Like, this is like my gender identity, but this is like my sexual identity. Like, how do I choose to label myself? Like, after thinking about it and processing it, how do I choose to describe myself and understand myself? And there's a few labels that I like here. Queer is my favorite one because that is like general, like not straight, and also like has like the implications of like queer culture. So I really like describing myself as queer, or simply not using any label at all, or describing myself with the fluid sexuality. I also sort of think about myself as a lesbian because I am a woman that's like primarily very interested in women, and that is like, I don't know, lesbian I feel like is, I'm not going to get into the definition of a lesbian. This is a whole discourse online, but I feel like a lesbian, and that is like a term that I do claim sometimes. And like gay just means, you know, attracted to the same sex. I mean, again, you can get like, you can dive into the weeds of like the definition, but again, I feel like I'm gay. Like, I'm a woman that's attracted to women. So that is like my internal identity state, but then I feel like the external identity state, or I guess the best word to describe this would be like experiences and like behavior. Like, I have only ever dated women, which would make me very homosexual, like very much a lesbian, like a woman who's only dated and had sex with women. So I'm homosexual, I'm a lesbian, if you just go based on that. And that's like kind of how people treat you. Like, there's the whole thing with bisexual people being like straight passing relationships. Like, if you are a man and a woman dating and you look like a normal cishet couple, then people are gonna see you as like a straight, like a cishet couple, you know? They're not gonna see your like internal identity labels that you've like constructed for yourself in your head, or the like nuances of your attraction to various people in your life. They're just gonna see your behavior, which is that like you're a man dating a woman, or you're a woman dating a man, and they'll see that as straight. Or in my case, like if I'm a woman dating women, then people see that as gay. And that's just what it comes down to for a lot of people, especially a lot of cishet people. So there's all these different places that labels can apply, but none of them like really describes the whole range of your experience, your attraction, your behavior, your identity. So I guess I'm getting to the end of the video here, which is to say that labels can be useful and they have like their social function, but personally, I don't concern myself too much with like coming up with like a perfect label to perfectly describe my experiences, my identity, my attraction, my behavior, because I am just me and I will do what I want, date who I want, dress how I want, be how I want, because I am me and I'm not a word. I'm myself. I hope that that's helpful for somebody. I've got some friends that really struggle with this, so queer trans people out there, don't limit yourselves. Don't feel confined to be in like a little box of like the queer taxonomy or whatever. Just be yourselves. Just be happy. Subscribe. Like this video. Please comment. I get some weird comments from like old creepy men, and I really appreciate it when there's like a nice trans girl telling me that she likes my content or something. That's way better than the creepy old men. So please comment if you enjoyed this video. I would appreciate that. And please subscribe and stick around because my channel has been kind of popping off lately and I'm really excited about it, and I'm going to be making a lot more content. So if you like this, then stick around because there's more coming. Alright, later guys!